On a wild night of adrenaline and chaos, a band of bikers destroyed a car, oblivious to the fact that its owner was none other than Snoop Dogg, setting off a chain of events no one could have ever foreseen. Travis T-Rex Cole's boot connected, with the Cadillac Escalade's side mirror, sending it crashing to the asphalt in a shower of broken glass. The sound echoed through the drive-in parking lot, cutting through the classic rock playing over tinny speakers. Around him, the hounds of havoc roared with approval, their leather vests gleaming under the neon lights of Baker's drive-in. "Nice." "Right," T-Rex sneered, dragging his key along the pristine black paint, the metal-on-metal screech making several patrons inside the restaurant wince. "Too nice for Longview, Texas." If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give a like. Tell us which city you're watching us from. We continue. His second-in-command, Darrell Bones Jenkins, a lanky man with hollow cheeks and cold eyes, slammed his fist into the passenger window, spiderwebbing the glass. Owners about to learn what happens when you roll through our town looking like you own the place. They didn't notice the drive-in's glass door swing open, or the tall figure that stepped out, holding a tray of food. They didn't see the other. Patrons backing away or the teenagers raising phones to record what was happening. They only realized someone was watching when the low, unmistakable voice cut through their laughter. "I know you ain't just destroying my ride." The gang turned to find Snoop Dogg standing there, his expression unreadable behind dark sunglasses, despite the late hour. His posture was relaxed, almost indifferent, but something in the way he held himself suggested this wasn't his first confrontation. T-Rex's smile faltered for only a second before returning, wider and meaner. Well, look who we got here. A celebrity." He spat the word like it was poison. "You lost, superstar? Hollywood's about 1,500 miles that way." Snoop set his food tray carefully on the hood of a nearby truck and removed his sunglasses, revealing eyes that had seen far more than music videos and recording studios. "Nah, man, I ain't lost." His voice remained calm, measured, "but you about to be if you don't step away from my car." Later, witnesses would argue about what happened next. Some would swear T-Rex threw the first punch. Others claimed Snoop moved with unexpected speed for someone so laid back. All agreed on one thing: nobody saw it coming. 6 months earlier, the town of Longview had been unremarkable, just another dot on the Texas map where life moved at its own unhurried pace. Nestled between pine forests and oil fields, it was a place where everyone knew everyone, where Friday night football games were sacred, and where newcomers were viewed with equal parts curiosity and suspicion. Officer Jessica Reeves had been born and raised in Longview, and at 34 she'd seen enough to know her hometown wasn't perfect. 10 years on the police force had shown her the underbelly of the seemingly peaceful community, the domestic disputes, the drug problems, the economic struggles that many families faced. With her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and brown eyes that missed little, Jessica had earned respect in a department still dominated by men. She was fair but firm, compassionate but unwavering, exactly what Longview needed in an officer. That spring morning, she pulled into Baker's drive-in for her usual coffee before patrol. The restaurant had been a Longview institution since the 1950s. Its red neon sign and checkered floor tiles unchanged for decades. The owner, Mike Baker, a heavy-set man in his 60s with kind eyes and calloused hands, greeted her with the same warm smile he offered all his regulars. "Morning, Officer Reeves. The usual?" Jessica nodded, leaning against the counter while Mike poured her coffee, strong and black. "Anything interesting happening, Mike?" He shrugged, sliding the coffee across to her. Same old, though we did have some boys from that motorcycle club in last night. Made Sarah nervous with their loud talk." Sarah Marshall, a waitress. In her early 20s, with blonde hair and a perpetual look of determination, appeared from the kitchen, a tray of fresh pie slices balanced expertly on one hand. They weren't just loud, Mike. They were threatening that couple from Houston. She turned to Jessica. The one with the beard, Travis I think they called him, he kept saying Longview was their territory now, made it sound like a warning. Jessica frowned. The Hounds of Havoc had moved into Longview approximately 8 months ago, establishing a clubhouse on the outskirts of town. Initially, they'd kept to themselves, but lately reports of intimidation and vandalism had increased. Nothing serious enough for significant police action, but enough to create an undercurrent of tension. "I'll swing by their place later," Jessica promised, taking a sip of her coffee. "Keep an eye on things." What Jessica didn't say was that the Hounds weren't just another rowdy motorcycle club. Intelligence from state. Police suggested they were involved in drug trafficking between Dallas and Shreveport, using Longview as a distribution hub, but proof had been elusive, and without it, Jessica's hands were tied. As she left Baker's, her radio crackled with a dispatch call, another vandalism incident, this time at Longview High School. The principal had arrived to find the Hound's skull emblem spray-painted across the front entrance. It was the third such incident that month. A message, a claiming of territory. By the time Jessica finished filing the report, she'd missed her scheduled drive-by of the Hound's clubhouse. It would have to wait until tomorrow. Tomorrow turned into next week, and next week stretched into a month. The Hounds grew bolder, their presence in town more visible, more threatening. The once friendly atmosphere of Longview began to change, residents growing warier, local businesses suffering as people avoided areas where the bikers congregated. Jessica brought her concerns to Chief Wilson, a veteran officer 2 years from retirement who preferred to avoid confrontation when possible. "They haven't done anything we can make stick," he reminded her, leaning back in his creaking office chair. "A few vandalism reports, some noise complaints. Nothing that justifies bringing the hammer down." "It's escalating," Jessica argued. "People are scared, businesses are suffering." Wilson sighed, rubbing his grey stubbled chin. "Look, Reeves, I understand your frustration, but we're understaffed as it is. State police have bigger fish to fry. Unless something serious happens, our hands are tied." Jessica left his office feeling the weight of impotence. That night, she drove past Baker's drive-in on her way home and noticed how empty the parking lot looked compared to 6 months ago. Inside, Mike Baker was wiping down tables, his movements slower than usual, shoulders slumped with worry. The place was deserted except for Sarah, counting her meager tips at the counter. "Business that bad?" Jessica asked, sliding onto a stool. Mike nodded grimly. "Those bikers scared off my regulars. Came in twice last week, made a scene, left without paying." He lowered his voice. "I think they're sending a message. They want protection money, but they're not saying it outright." Jessica's jaw tightened. "You should file a report." Mike laughed bitterly. "And then what? They'll know it was me. And no offense, Jessica, but your department isn't exactly striking fear into their hearts." She couldn't argue with that truth. The Longview Police Department was outmatched, and everyone knew it. As spring turned to summer, the situation deteriorated. 2 local business owners who had spoken out against the Hounds found their stores vandalized. A teenager who refused to run errands for the gang was beaten badly enough to require hospitalization. Each incident carefully calculated to fall just shy of provoking serious police response, yet clear enough to send a message to the town. Longview belonged to the Hounds now. T-Rex, with his imposing physique and quick temper, had emerged as the unchallenged leader of the local chapter. His right-hand man, Bones, was known for his cold efficiency and lack of empathy. Together, they had transformed a once peaceful town into their personal fiefdom. Jessica watched it happen, powerless to stop it with the limited resources at her disposal. Each morning, she swore she would find a way to take back her town. Each night, she returned home with that promise unfulfilled. Until one hot August evening, when a black Cadillac Escalade rolled into Longview and the balance of power unexpectedly shifted. The news that Snoop Dogg was passing through Longview spread through the town like wildfire. He had been traveling between shows in Dallas and New Orleans, taking the scenic route when his driver needed to stop for the night. They'd chosen Longview simply because it was conveniently located, a place to rest before continuing their journey. Word reached T-Rex within hours of the Escalade, checking into the Pine Ridge Motel on the edge of town. Initially, he laughed. It offers a rumor. Celebrities didn't stop in Longview. But when one of his prospects confirmed the sighting, something darkened in T-Rex's expression. A big shot, huh? Thinks he can just roll through our town. He crushed a beer can in his fist. Maybe we should welcome him properly, show him how we treat outsiders around here. Bones, ever practical, raised an eyebrow. He's pretty famous, Travis. Might bring heat we don't need. T-Rex scoffed. You think I'm scared of some Hollywood rapper? This is our town. Everyone pays respect, famous or not. That evening, as Snoop and his small entourage, just a driver and a security guard, stopped at Baker's Drive-In for dinner, Jessica was finishing her shift across town. The call came over her radio as she was preparing to clock out. Disturbance at Baker's, possible assault in progress. By the time she arrived, the confrontation was already underway. T-Rex and 5 of his hounds had surrounded the Escalade, their motorcycles blocking the exit from the parking lot. Jessica could see the damage they'd already done: smashed windows, deep gouges in the paint, a flattened tire. And standing before them, seemingly unconcerned by the odds against him, was Snoop Dogg. Jessica called for backup before exiting her cruiser, hand resting on her holster. "Break it up now," she shouted, but her voice was lost in the commotion. T-Rex had a tire iron in his hand. Bones was flanking him, a chain wrapped around his knuckles. The other hounds formed a loose semicircle, ready to pounce. What happened? Next would become Longview legend. As T-Rex swung the tire iron, Snoop moved with unexpected agility, sidestepping the blow. In one fluid motion, he grabbed T-Rex's wrist, twisting until the weapon clattered to the ground. Before anyone could react, he delivered a precise strike to T-Rex's solar plexus that left the larger man gasping for air. Bones rushed forward, chain whipping towards Snoop's face. Without seeming to hurry, Snoop caught the chain, yanked it hard, and used Bones's momentum to send him crashing into a nearby truck. 2 more hounds charged. Snoop dispatched them with efficient movements that spoke of years of street fighting, experience far removed from his laid-back public persona. The remaining gang members hesitated, suddenly uncertain. Their leaders were on the ground, and the man they'd targeted as an easy mark stood unruffled, not even breathing hard. "Y'all done?" Snoop asked mildly, adjusting his gold chains. "Or should we continue this educational moment?" T-Rex struggled to his feet, face contorted with rage and humiliation. "This isn't over," he snarled. "Oh, it's over," came Jessica's voice as she stepped forward, weapon drawn. "On the ground, all of you. Now." For a tense moment it seemed T-Rex might refuse. Then, with a venomous glare at Snoop, he slowly raised his hands. As Jessica began cuffing the bikers, Sarah emerged from Baker's with a fresh milkshake, offering it to Snoop with shaking hands. "On the house," she said, "and thank you." Snoop accepted it with a nod, surveying his damaged vehicle with resignation. "Been through worse," he remarked, taking a sip. Mike Baker approached cautiously. "We've got a mechanic in town. Best in East Texas. He can fix your car by morning." Snoop considered this. "Guess I'm staying in Longview tonight after all." The news of the confrontation spread even faster than the news of Snoop's arrival. By midnight, everyone in town had heard how one man had stood up to the hounds and won. If the stories grew slightly more dramatic with each retelling, Snoop taking on 12 bikers instead of 6, performing martial arts moves that defied gravity, the essential truth remained. Someone had finally challenged the hounds' control of Longview. In the police station, Jessica processed the arrests, charging T-Rex and his crew with vandalism, attempted assault, and criminal threatening. With multiple witnesses and security camera footage from Baker's, these charges wouldn't be so easily dismissed. While filling out paperwork, she noticed Snoop leaning against the wall outside her office, still sipping his milkshake. "I wanted to thank you," she said. "Not many would have stood their ground against those odds." He shrugged. "Where I'm from, you don't back down when someone tests you. Simple as that." "Those men have been terrorizing this town for months," Jessica admitted. "We haven't had the resources to stop them." "Sometimes it just takes one person to stand up," Snoop replied. "Then others find their courage." As if to prove his point, over the next hours residents began arriving at the station, business owners, teachers, high school students, all coming forward with statements about the hounds' activities. Intimidation, vandalism, protection rackets, to drug deals. The evidence Jessica had been unable to gather for months suddenly flowed in, a dam of fear finally broken. By morning, state police had arrived to transfer T-Rex and his top lieutenants to the county jail. A search warrant for the Hounds clubhouse had been issued. The remaining gang members were seen hurriedly packing their belongings, their once fearsome presence in Longview crumbling without their leader. At Baker's Drive-In, now crowded with locals for the first time in months, Snoop sat at the counter, enjoying a breakfast of pancakes and bacon. Jessica joined him, sliding onto the adjacent stool. "Your car will be ready in an hour," she informed him. State police found enough evidence at the clubhouse to put T-Rex away for a long time. Drug trafficking, illegal weapons, evidence of assault. Snoop nodded, seemingly unsurprised. Towns like this, good people just need a reminder that they outnumber the bad ones. Mike Baker approached, beaming. "Breakfast is on the house. In fact, you never have to pay for a meal in Longview again." Snoop smiled, a rare, genuine expression. "Appreciate that, but I'll be moving on. Got a show in New Orleans tonight." "You saved this town," Mike insisted. "Nah." Snoop shook his head, glancing around at the locals chatting and laughing, the atmosphere lighter than it had been in months. "The town saved itself. I just provided the spark." When the repaired Escalade pulled up outside Baker's, a crowd had gathered to see him off. Children waved, parents took photos, and Jessica stood at the front offering a grateful smile. As Snoop prepared to leave, Sarah rushed out with a paper bag. "For the road," she explained. "Best cheeseburgers in Texas." He accepted the gift, with grace, then surprised everyone by removing his gold chain, a pendant shaped like a microphone, and placing it in her hand. "So y'all remember," he said, "sometimes standing your ground is all it takes." With that, he climbed into the Escalade and rolled away, the morning sun glinting off the freshly repaired paint. In the months that followed, Longview transformed. The Hounds of Havoc were gone, their clubhouse converted into a community center. Crime rates fell, local businesses flourished again, and at Baker's Drive-In, Snoop's gold microphone pendant hung proudly behind the counter, a reminder of the night Longview stood still, then found its courage. Jessica Reeves drove past the drive-in every morning on patrol, always slowing to nod at the pendant. The town had needed a hero, and they'd found one in the most unexpected visitor. As Mike Baker often told customers while pointing to the pendant, sometimes the most important thing isn't the fight itself, but just knowing someone was willing to fight at all.